Handling the exception include the exception section in your PLSQL program to trap the exception. Or trapping the exception include the exception block. If the exception is raised in the executable section of the block, processing the branches to the corresponding exception handler in the exception section of the block. If PLSQL successfully handle the exception doesn't propagate to the enclosing block. So when you are using the trapping exception, if the PLSQL handle the exception, then it is not propagating it. Propagating it means it is not what free to the handle. The exception handler is handling all the type of exception, so there is no requirement to propagating it. So what is that propagation exception? If the exception is raised in the executable section of the block, there is no corresponding exception handler. Okay, if there is no exception handler is present to handling the exception, so in that situation, we are using the propagation of exception. The calling environment can be any application that invoke the PLSQL program. Okay, trapping means it will trap where your exception is arises, and when your exception is trapped or it is identified that exception is not present, then you can include it. Just 1 minute. Hello. Oh, Yeah. So trapping exception means it is identifying the exception, and propagating exception means if you are not identifying the exception, or if there is no exception handler is present, then it is going to the where the your exception is generated. Okay, that is the difference between trapping and propagating. What are the exception types are available? The exception type is one is predefined Oracle server error, another is non-predefined Oracle server error. So these are the two type of exception we're using, that is implicitly raised. User defined, that is we're using it is explicitly raised. One is implicitly raised, another is explicitly raised. Implicitly means that is defined by the Oracle server. Suppose आपका कोई एक्सेप्शन आया, ओरेकल सर्वर का जो प्री डिफाइंड एक्सेप्शन है वो अप्लाइड होगा. यूजर डिफाइंड जो है, जैसे कि मैंने आपको एग्जांपल बोला था, जैसे कि इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने डिफाइन किया इट इज टोटली ऑन लॉक, बट स्टेट वाइज सम काइंड ऑफ रेस्ट्रिक्शन हैज गिवन. मतलब कोई भी वैल्यू लेने पर आपका कोई एक्सेप्शन नहीं होगा, बट यू हैव टू डिफाइन योर ओन एक्सेप्शन क्लास. आप खुद का एक एक्सेप्शन डिफाइन करोगे डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द एप्लीकेशन रिक्वायरमेंट, दैट इज अ यूजर डिफाइन. There are three type of exception handler we are using. One is predefined Oracle server error, another is non-predefined Oracle server error, another is user-defined error. Predefined Oracle server error is one of approximately 20 errors that occur most often in the Plsql code. 20 errors are present for handling the exception. You need not declare this exception. They are predefined by the Oracle server and raised implicitly. It is raised implicitly. Non-predefined Oracle server, any other standard Oracle server. ओके, तो प्री डिफाइंड में क्या है ना, 20 ऐसा एरर है जो प्री डिफाइंड है, जो ओरेकल सर्वर इसको डिफाइन करता है. यू डोंट डिक्लेयर इट, वो ऑटोमेटिक आ जाएगा. देयर आर प्री डिफाइंड बाय द ओरेकल सर्वर. नॉन प्री डिफाइंड एनी स्टैंडर्ड ओरेकल सर्वर एरर, यू नीड टू डिक्लेयर दिस विद इन द डिक्लेरेटिव सेक्शन. मतलब आपको डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा तो डिक्लेरेटिव सेक्शन में. The Oracle server raises the error implicitly, and you can catch the error in the exception handler section. So you have to catch the exception. Another error is present, that is called the user defined error. It is a condition that the developer determined is abnormal. Means you are giving a condition. If your condition is not satisfied, then it shows an error. So you need to declare in the declarative section and raise it explicitly. So in that part, it is called as the user defined. So non-predefined Oracle server error and user defined, it seems to be what equal. But non-predefined Oracle server is saying that any it is not a error, but you have to define the error according to the application requirement. जैसे कि क्या होता है ना, अगर कोई भी नंबर को आप जीरो से डिवाइड करते हो, तो ए नंबर कैन नॉट बी डिविजिबल बाय जीरो, तो ये आपको एरिथमेटिक एरर दिखाएगा. तो दैट इज डिफाइंड बाय द ओरेकल सर्वर. ओरेकल सर्वर में वो प्रेजेंट है, प्री डिफाइंड. लेकिन हम ऐसा एक वैल्यू लेंगे, सपोज अगर हम ऐसा वैल्यू लेंगे जो 18 से अगर नीचे कोई अगर वैल्यू हम देते हैं यूजर को, तो वो आपको एक एरिथमेटिक एरर दिखाएगा. दैट इज नॉट एरिथमेटिक एरर, बट वी आर डिफाइनिंग इफ anybody is passing the value that is less than 18, it is shows an non predefined error. Next is user defined error, that you have to check a condition. अगर आपका कंडीशन सेटिस्फाई नहीं होता है तो आपको वो एरर शो करेगा. These are the exception type we're using.
सर सर
हाँ
सर सर जो आपण कहले कि आमे जदि गोटे कंडीशन दबा एनी नंबर लेस देन 18 विल बी शोइंग एन एरर राइट तो सर सेटा सर यूजर डिफाइंड एरर रे गला ना सर नॉन प्री डिफाइंड केमते हला सर
एरिथमेटिक एरर एरिथमेटिक जो एरर टा रहला सेटा होसी हम को नॉन प्रीडिफाइंड नै जीवो एठी हम किछि कंडीशन दबान you need to declare this within the declarative section, okay, and raise explicitly. You need to declare this within the declarative section. The Oracle server raises an error implicitly. So
तो
non
सर बट से कंडीशन तो आमे ही दोछु ना सर यूजर ही कंडीशन दोछि ना
এই जो एरर टा रहिबो नॉन प्रीडिफाइंड हमें यूजर कंडीशन दबो किंतु एरर टा कोन अरिथमेटिक एरर एठी सेमती 20 टा जो एरर अछि ए 20 टा एरर भीतर एटा जीवन एटा हमें ओटे डिफाइन करियो
ओ ओ एरर टा हमें डिफाइन करियो ठीक है
एरर क्लास हमें
ठीक है
Then syntax for trapping the exception. First, we are using exception keyword. When exception one, okay, so when exception one, then it is showing you some value, statement one and statement two. So when exception three or exception four, it is showing you some statement. If other exception, then it is showing you some statement. Okay, so we are defining some condition. If exception one, we are giving a name. If that exception is arises, then statement within that it is executed. If you are defining other exception like exception 3 and 4, then this statement is executed. So you can trap any error by including a corresponding handler with the exception handling section of the Plsql log. Each handler consists of a when clause. So when you are defining exception, it is having a when clause. We specify the exception name followed by a sequence of statement to be executed when the exception is raised. Exception trapping syntax. In exception trapping syntax, we are using exception. जो आप exception name यहाँ पर define किया गया is a standard name of a predefined exception. Statement is one or more PLSQL statement. Other is an optional exception handling clause. Okay. When other exception handler, as stated previously, the exception handling section trap only those exceptions that was specified. To trap any exception that is not specified, you can use other exception handler. This option trap any exception not yet handler. Okay, like when no data found is exception, then the statement one. When too many row is coming, then it is showing you that exception, too many row exception will come. When other exception is come, then it is showing you this statement. So these are the two exception it is defined. Guideline for trapping exception. The exception keyword start the exception handling section. अगर आपको exception generate करना है तो आप exception keyword define करो. Several handlers are allowed. Okay, so at a time you can define the several handler, exception handler. Only one handler is processed before leaving the block when other is the last one. Okay, तो एक exception के लिए आप multiple handler, exception handler define कर सकते हैं. Suppose if it is a rain, then you have a handler like your raincoat, your umbrella. These are the handlers. A similar way, if you define any kind of predefined exception in the Oracle, so you have a different type of exception handler. Only one handler is processed before leaving the block. At a time, only one handler is processed. When others, if any exception handler is not there, अगर कोई भी exception handler जो भी define किए अगर match नहीं हुआ, then it is showing you the other exception.
Sir, what is the need of declaring so much of handlers? माने गोटे exception में तो गोटे handler define कर परिवा ना.
You're not
Many
sure about that how many exception will come. Suppose when you are moving through a road now in this 2 to 4 days, so you are expecting what? For the safety, we are wearing the helmet. You are wearing the mask. You are expecting that there may be a rain, so you have a raincoat. So how many handlers you have? One is helmet, one is mask, and one is for raincoat. So you are not expecting. You don't know which error or which disease is coming with you, or which accident we have to follow. Maybe you have to face accident, so you have a helmet. Maybe you have to touch with the virus, then we have a mask. Okay, maybe there is a rain, you have a raincoat. It may not be happening. Okay, your destination is what? Suppose you are moving to the Panivia to Bermuda. So when you are passing through that road, maybe these are the situation will come. Okay, so for that we have that kind of handling. If any one of them is happen, suppose virus will come, then you have a map. If what accident is there or traffic checking is there, having a helmet or documents. If there is a rain, one condition, then I have raincoat. Okay, so these are the situation is there, and you have to handle it.
Yeah.
Suppose you are not having raincoat and there is a rain, you are not having a umbrella. Then at that situation, what happens? You have to wait, आप भीग जाओ और आपको कोई रास्ता पे भीग कर आपको जाना पड़ेगा. ओके, अगर कोई भी एक्सेप्शन हैंडलर नहीं है तो आपको अल्टीमेट कोई भी सिचुएशन आपको करना है. अगर आप सिचुएशन मतलब आप रुक जाओ किसी भी दुकान पर और यू हैव टू मूव फॉरवर्ड. ओके,
Yes.
guideline for trapping exception. Begin the exception handling section of the block with exception keyword. By using the exception keyword, we handle the exception. Define several exception handlers, that is within its own block. When an exception occurs, Plsql process only one handler before leaving the block. Place the other clause after all the exception handling clause. You can have only one other clause. Other means if there is no exception, or if there is no exception handler, such a exception handler is present which is handling the exception. In that case, we are using others. Exception cannot appear in the assigning the statement of the SQL statement. Okay, it is the guideline for trapping the exception. trapping the predefined Oracle server error. Okay, so what are the predefined Oracle server errors present? One is no data found. So you are searching for a record. If there is no data is present, no data. Too many rows are present. Many rows are present. Too many rows. Then invalid cursor. The cursor that you are using that is invalid. Zero divide. When you divide a number with zero, that is zero divided. Duplicate value on index. If you found the duplicate value. Okay, so that is a some predefined exception we have. See there. How many exception is present? Access into null. The Oracle server error number is ORA 6530. So when it is happened, attempt to assign to the attribute of uninitialized object. So you are not initializing the object and you attempt to assign a value. मतलब while you are defining a variable, जो Plsql variable आप define किए हो, वो initialize नहीं किए हो, but run time में वहाँ पर कुछ value देना चाहते हो, तो वो नहीं होगा. Case not found. None of the choices in the when clause of a case statement are selected, and there is no else clause. If there is no else clause and there is no such case statement is present, it's showing you case not found. Collection is null. Attempted to apply the collection method other than exist to an unauthorized nested table and VRA. Attempted to apply the collection method other than exist to the uninitialized nested table or VRA. So when you are using virtual array, if you are not initializing any value, okay, means you are not storing any value and you want to retrieve a record. मतलब VRA में कोई record नहीं है, but वहाँ से आप data retrieve करना चाहते हैं. So in that cases also it's showing you an error. Then next is collection is null. Attempted to apply the collection method other than exist to an uninitialized nested VRA is over. Cursor already open. Attempt to open a already open cursor. मतलब cursor open हो गया फिर से आप open कर रहे हैं. So that is also a one exception. The exception number is ORA 06511. Duplicate value on index. Attempt to insert a duplicate value. Invalid cursor. Illegal cursor operation occur. Then invalid number. Conversion of character string to a number. Suppose you are passing a value welcome and you convert this welcome to a number. That is not converted. But if you pass 25 as a string, 25 नंबर कोई भी नंबर है, सपोज 25 है, 25 स्ट्रिंग फॉर्मेट में स्टोर है, उसको आप नंबर में कन्वर्ट करना चाहते हो, वी कैन कन्वर्ट इट. ओके, बट यू कैनॉट कन्वर्ट ए स्ट्रिंग टू ए नंबर. सपोज कोई स्ट्रिंग हो गया, वेलकम हो गया, तो वो कन्वर्ट नहीं होगा. Next is login denied. Logging to the Oracle server with an invalid username and password. You are not giving any valid username and password. So that is login denied error. No data found. Single row select and return no data. Then not logged on. The PLSQL program issue a database call without being connected to the Oracle. Oracle सर्वर से कनेक्टेड नहीं हुआ है और आप डाटा रिट्राइव करना चाहते हो, तो दैट इज नॉट लॉग्ड ऑन एरर. Program error. PLSQL has internal problem. That is a program error. Row type mismatch. The host cursor variable and PLSQL cursor variable involved in an assignment of incompatible return type. If you are returning some value, you are using a function, the function is returning some value, and the return value will be stored in some variable. So when you are trying to store that return value in a variable, if it is not present in a desired format, it is also chosen as that. Exception name. Another is storage error. ORA 06500. PLSQL ran out of memory. The memory is corrupted. So in that case, it's showing you storage error. Next is subscript beyond count. It references a nested table VRA element by using index number. So you retrieve the value from a virtual array, so the index number, but that index number is not present. Okay, and you are what beyond the count. Suppose you are having the value 5 and you are mentioning to the 7. So 7th element is not present because you are having up to 5th element. Subscript outside limit. So that is outside limit. Reference a nested virtual array element by using the index number that is outside of the range. System invalid row ID. The conversion of character string into universal row ID. Because of the character string doesn't represent a row ID.
Sir, doubt बचे
Cool.
Sir, subscript beyond count or subscript outside limit or difference?
Count means it is counting the number. Suppose you want to, you are giving a array length. Array length is 7. Okay, means array total length is 7, but you are giving a length as 8. Then it is not retrieve record, but 8 length is not present. Out of limit is like that. You are searching a record through the index number. You retrieve the number value from an index number. Index number is starting from 0, and you are having up to 4th index. 5 element is there present. You are giving, you are accessing the element up to 4. 4th तक हम access कर सकते हैं. लेकिन अगर वहाँ पर हम 5th इंडेक्स से इंडेक्स देंगे तो वहाँ पर एरर होता है.
Out of limit. Yes, sir.
Timeout on resource. The timeout occurred while Oracle server was waiting for a resource. Means you are executing a select command, and after that you want to update immediately. So it is showing you timeout error because your Oracle server is waiting to get the result from the server. Too many row. If you want to store the many row into a single variable, in that case it is showing you too many rows error. Next is value error. Arithmetic conversion, truncation or size constraint error. Okay, arithmetic conversion. If you want to convert one data type to another data type, so in that cases value error is present. trapping the non-predefined Oracle server error. First, we are defining name of the exception. Then we define use the pragma exception identity. Pragma means which is predefined exception. Then we are having a reference, handle the raised exception. First, you declare the exception. Then you have to associate that exception with your program. Then you have to handle it. As you define the exception, if that exception is arises, where it is arises? It is arises in the Plsql program, you have to associate it. Then you have to use a exception handler. Okay. We cover up to 8.16. Tomorrow we'll start with the example.